Hello, this is Ed Markey speaking. Welcome to the Ed Markey podcast. Okay, so let me know. Oh, man. So welcome back. Today we have a super special guest on the podcast. My partner in progressive politics, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, but hers is not just a voice for Massachusetts, but for the whole country. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about an aspect of the Green New Deal, and that is free fares for public transit in Massachusetts, in Boston, and for the whole country. And back in, unbelievably, 2020, Congresswoman Pressley and I introduced the Freedom to Move Act, which said that people, especially poor people, should be able to get on and off the bus and the train for free so they could get to work, get to the hospital, to do whatever they have to do. Mm-hmm. So she is the national leader on this issue, driving it forward, and it's just an honor for us to have her with us today.
So generous of you to say. I have to say, though, I don't feel like a special guest. You know, we're what I would call movement family. So I feel right at home, and I'm so grateful for you and your leadership and your representation and on all things related to climate justice in particular. These are issues that you've been the canary in the coal mine on for a very long time. And it's just a testament to the power of your, I don't know, your resilience, your stamina, that now this movement has grown. And we have a North Star, but it's one that is not so aspirational that it's unattainable. It has everything to do with political will and the moment in time we find ourselves in. And I'm grateful to you and Representative Ocasio-Cortez for introducing the Green New Deal, which is now just a daily part of our policy approach and budgetary investments in actualizing climate justice. It wasn't always this way, you know. So anyway, I'm grateful.
And by the way,
for you.
Today is the 5th birthday of the Green New Deal.
I think I did hear that.
And
where's the cake?
You are so right. You are so right. Happy birthday to the Green New Deal. Yeah. So
G&D.
So we're celebrating it, and you're right. To a certain extent, I am a canary who kept going into the mine shaft, but I'm still politically alive because the coal industry does not like me, or the oil, or the gas industry. So we're continuing.
I know that should not have been the analogy that I used.
So we're still, and we're winning. See, the Green New Deal movement is winning.
That's right.
And so much of what the Green New Deal is about is environmental justice. It's about ensuring that we rectify, remediate all of those historical injustices that have been inflicted upon communities of color, poor people all across our country. And part of it is the need for people to have access to public transit.
That's right.
To get to where they have to go and not use a huge percentage of their discretionary income to accomplish that transportation goal. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, that's why I'm so grateful for your partnership. You know, I say often that policy is my love language. And that's because, you know, every harm, every injustice, every inequity is one that was codified in a law or in a budget, or created because of a divestment of resources. And so, you know, we are sort of living in the residual aftermath of legislated harm. And I think it is possible to legislate justice, to legislate equity, to legislate healing. And I'm deeply invested in that because the Massachusetts 7th is one of the most unequal districts in our country, arguably the most unequal in our delegation, in a 3-mile radius from Cambridge to Roxbury.
For sure.
Life expectancy drops by 30 years, and median household income by $50,000. And I believe that those disparate health outcomes and that racial wealth gap is exacerbated by transit injustice and a lack of access to affordable, rapid, reliable transportation that is connecting people to housing, to jobs, to education. And so I'm grateful for your participation in my love language of policy, and that we introduced this Freedom to Move Act. And it's one of my favorite bill names. It sounds, poetic, but it also sounds just so obvious, right? I mean, everyone deserves the freedom to move. We can do the work of building a more livable city, commonwealth, and country, but if people can't navigate it, it doesn't matter. And so we introduced the Freedom to Move Act, which really uses the power of the purse to incentivize municipalities to prioritize fare free transit, because we believe that public transit is a public good. So it's a $25 billion grant program that would offset fare revenues, and whoever would participate would need to prioritize that funding towards closing transit equity gaps and have an emphasis on low-income and historically underserved and marginalized communities. So that is the Freedom to Move. And I'll just end here and say that earlier this week we celebrated Rosa Parks' birthday. And so often Rosa Parks is defined only as a civil rights activist. But when she took her seat, that was actually the activism of a transit justice activist that on a bus. So, I do believe that this fight is very interconnected to the broader fight of civil rights and the progressive movement, because transit justice, I think it's a human right. It's how we meet our housing justice goals, our sustainability and climate goals. It's how we address racial injustice.
So Rosa Parks did not want to take her seat in the back of the bus.
That's right.
And if we take this story of buses, thank you for raising it. Let's just fast forward it to today, where you and I and Senator Warren worked very hard to get the federal funding so that Michelle Wu would have dozens of electric buses.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
That would be usable in Boston. Can you talk about that?
No, I want you to. Tell me why it is essential that we make all public transit fare free, and building on the success of our incredible Boston mayor.
Well, in the COVID crisis, we learned a big lesson, which was that in the communities of color, Chelsea, where you represent, or Lawrence, the inner cities, had disproportionately higher rates of asthma, lung disease. And then COVID arrives, a lung disease. And so who suffered the worst?
Right.
It was those communities that already had pre-existing conditions related to environmental exposure,
right.
which had been preventable but ignored as a public health crisis in our country. And so we learned that lesson, and there's a way of rectifying it, and that's to move to renewable energy resources and all electric buses.
That's right.
And so to the extent to which Mayor Wu asked us to help her to get the funding, those buses are going to be deployed largely in the communities that had historically been adversely impacted by environmental conditions. So it's something I'm very proud of, and we have to expand it until every one of those diesel buses is replaced with a renewable, non-greenhouse gas, non-polluting bus is deployed in the city.
when you bring up the context of COVID, so many things happened in the midst of that pandemic. Federally, things that people have said for decades we could never do and would never happen. And so I'm glad that we've learned the lesson. And given the transformative impact of those piloted fare free transit programs in places like Lawrence and Boston, and again, this is what's true of the progressive movement, is that when we first start championing these issues, people try to fringe or marginalize them, but we just keep going, we just keep organizing, we just keep mobilizing. And I think the reason why progressive ideas like fare-free transit are so popular is because they are solutions that go as far and as deep as the hurt and the inequities. And the fact that we were able at an acute time of this country of great distress to pilot this, and now today to see those programs preserved and expanded is going to make quite a difference in people's everyday lives in terms of their ability to get to school, to get to work, to get to childcare, to get to healthcare appointments. So when I talk about that 30-year disparity in health outcomes and life expectancy from Cambridge to Roxbury, the fact that people can get to medical appointments, more quickly, get to their job. I mean, people deserve rapid, reliable transportation. So these investments are really critical.
Yeah, and some people think, well, it's a choice. We need the money. We can't afford to help people to jump on and off buses or trains. We should get their money, and that will affect reliability. But it really isn't a choice. And what we've learned from Mayor Wu's experiment with free transit, what we've learned up in Lawrence in Merrimack Valley, is that there's a 30% increase in people using rapid transit and buses if it's free. And that helps the economy, it helps mobility, helps healthcare, and so it's actually something that should not be viewed as a choice.
It reduces emissions, it reduces traffic congestion, and also when we increase ridership on buses, people who usually drive are able to save about $10,000 a year. So that's a pretty decent return on investment, that we're making strides in sustainability and saving the planet, and also closing our racial wealth gap and addressing disparate health outcomes. It is just a solution that's proven and that makes sense. And so I'm excited that now so many people are piloting fare-free transit initiatives, not only throughout the Commonwealth, but throughout the country.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, yeah, they are. So I guess what I would just say about that is, I think we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to be pace setters for the nation. And so I love that people are replicating this proven best practices model. But most of all, I love the impact that it is having on people's lives. I'm just of the opinion that I don't want people to know what we're doing, or Democrats what we're doing based on a press release. I want them to know because we are advancing a change that they can feel, change that is transformative. And that's what fare-free transit is doing. Yep. And that is what ultimately, when we do pass the Freedom to Move Act, that is what it will do, because people will have the freedom to move.
Back in 1966, when South Central LA exploded and there were riots, and then they went in and did an analysis afterwards. What happened? And one of the things that they concluded was that you have this whole community over here, and you have all these jobs that are over here in another part of LA, but these people can't get to those jobs, and it causes frustration. Anger, knowing that if the transit system worked for them, they'd be more than willing to get into the economy, but they're over here and isolated.
That's right.
And that was the biggest conclusion from the study that was done after those riots in 1966. And that's really what this whole free fare program is about,
Yeah.
just to make sure people can get to where they have to go.
Yeah, it should seem so basic and in elementary, truly. I was on Rosa Parks' birthday, which also was Transit Equity Day. We did a briefing, and actually one of my constituents, Stacy from Livable Streets, came. And, they just said that if you call the fire department or the police, you're not paying a fee for them to come, right? It's they're first responders, and it's a public good. And so the same should be true for public transit. It is a public good. It is really just that simple. And so the freedom to move, very possible, and something we're going to continue to work on until it is law. I wonder if you could speak to some of the myths about fare-free transit, because there are some detractors and naysayers, even though we have all the data that proves that it is an effective
and
policy.
I made a little bit of a reference to it, but pretty much the critics depend upon the argument of affordability for everyone just being something that can't be accomplished because we just can't allow these people to ride without paying, because it'll affect the reliability of the whole system. And we need their money too. And I think what our argument is that the whole system actually depends upon everyone being able to get to work, everyone being able to get to the hospital, everyone being able to do everything else in their life. And we benefit from that as well. And that has to be built into the reliability of the whole economy, and that everyone is participating. And count that as part of the benefits that you get from having fare-free programs that are put in place. And when we had our press conference in Mattapan Square. Back in
during COVID,
at the height of
yes,
COVID,
at the height of COVID
in 2020, actually the head of the Mattapan Community Health Center came out.
Oh, that's true.
To just tell us that for him, it's a big problem when people can't afford to come to get their checkups.
To get to their appointments, yeah.
And that's going to affect the economy if you multiply that by thousands of people all across the city that aren't participating. So I just think that it's time for us to just accept the fact that this vision of fare-free transit is our future, and that we have to invest in it, but we'll get far more back.
That's
as
right.
a society.
I mean, a $25 billion grant program under the Freedom to Move Act to incentivize more cities to do fare-free transit, with an emphasis on transit equity in communities historically underserved, and low income. That's a little investment for what is a lifetime of return. So, and also as we think about post-COVID, not defaulting to an unjust status quo. Historically, federally, when we talk about investments in transportation, it has not only created inequities, it's exacerbated them. They've just defined that sort of transit infrastructure as just highways and roads and bridges, but not that kind of multimodal infrastructure that we know is so necessary. In fact, I joined two of my congressional colleagues, and we launched this Future of Transportation Caucus as a way to advocate for federal investment to really center equity, accessibility, connectivity, and sustainability. And, I really do see that caucus as something that is standing on the shoulders of the Green New Deal, that it is possible, and we're seeing those greater investments federally in public transit. In fact, we saw that in the infrastructure bill. And I do think that is in large part because of the conversation and the movement that the Green New Deal has created. So happy 5th birthday, G&D.
No, it's happy birthday, Green New Deal. And by the way, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
No Green New Deal, no movement that creates the momentum, that creates the moments when in the infrastructure bill, in the IRA, that somehow or other, all of a sudden, maybe we should put in more money for environmental justice programs. 40% of all the money in the IRA goes to environmental justice. Maybe in the infrastructure bill, we should put in more dough, to help on a lot of those environmental injustice issues. And without the Green New Deal, we would just be repeating history over over and over again.
That's right.
And it's now a politically potent movement led by young people who are just insistent and persistent that they have their voices heard. And that's, I think, worth celebrating on the 5th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I do think when it was first introduced, it was sort of this North Star that felt so aspirational, something to work towards. But would it really be attainable? And so it's exciting to see states and cities throughout the country. I mean, Mayor Wu even has a Green New Deal czar, and she's not the only mayor to have that. And so that really is a testament to the strength of this movement. I love that you keep bringing up environmental justice so much, and again, certainly representing communities like Chelsea and East Boston and Roxbury. These are communities that are vulnerable to, as you said, high asthma and cancer rate because of those diesel emissions, proximity to Chinatown, proximity to highways, vulnerable to extreme heat and sea level rise. And so those investments are so critical.
Yeah, 100%. And again, we're making progress. Last year, for the first time, globally, more money was invested in solar than oil. So we're winning.
Wow, that's
and
an incredible
it's happening
statistic, yeah.
globally, and it's happening in the United States. And it'll take another 10 years or so, but young people are not going to allow us to lose this battle. They're the ones who are the leaders. And so I thank you for joining us. But we wrap up here by playing a little game that I like to call Big Oil or Movie Villain. Big Oil or Movie Villain. And I'll read a quote.
Okay,
and you tell me whether you think the person.
I have testing anxiety. I'm already feeling a little.
I
anxious.
feel we have an A+
Let's
about
see
to
how
come our way.
Let's see how this goes.
Is this a big oil executive
or
a movie villain who said these words? So, ready? The winds are such that it would be difficult to characterize them all. The winds are such that it would be difficult to categorize them all. Big oil executive, movie villain.
Big oil executive.
Big oil executive. Yes. That's correct. That's Dan Easley.
Yeah.
Although
it sounds like a villain.
Of ExxonMobil. Now, it's difficult to characterize anything big oil does except that which is evil, but it's bad for the planet. It's good for their pockets. Okay, one more. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Big oil executive.
I love your delivery, Ed. I love it.
Big oil.
You always fully commit. That is that's a movie villain.
Movie villain. Darth Vader.
2 for 2. Let's go. AP is in the building. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
So your faith in again, you're right. There's a kind of a dual identity.
Yes, absolutely.
Darth Vader, oil executive, and the final one. We are not selling a product which is evil. We are not selling a product which is evil. Big oil executive or movie villain. We are not selling a product.
I think you're trying to trick me, so I'm going to say movie villain. It sounded big oil, but I think you might be trying to do a little dupe.
Oh my God!
Is it a movie?
It's Mike Wirth, the CEO of Chevron.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and it sounds very evil, but you were overthinking. Total overthink.
I was overthinking. Yeah. Aquarians do that. Okay.
No, you had the right answer.
All right, let's go.
Well, that's it. I hate to say it.
That's
you
everything?
were so close to perfection until you were making a decision based upon the inflection of my voice. Okay, when you had the right answer, your instincts
What
were
if I had
correct.
gotten 3 for 3? Would I have gotten some G&D merch or something? You guys got to get some
Actually,
gear over
the
here.
green confetti comes down, but on this today, 5th birthday
Yes.
of the Green New Deal.
Yes.
Thank you for everything you
It's
do.
wonderful to be with you, and we're just going to keep working.
We're going to keep working.
Keep
Thank you.
working.
See you all next week. Thanks for joining us.